If you had to choose between an average life, an above average life, or a rockin' amazing life, which would you choose? Well, I'm guessing that very few of us would say, I just want average. But to be honest, I feel like the last 12 to 18 months have been perhaps below average. Between COVID-19, we personally moved from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is a big metropolitan area, to a small rural town, population 3,000. We also had one of our bonus daughters, who's 20, come and live with us for a few months. It has just been chaos. And what I have found is that when life is throwing you so many different things at once, it is really hard to be rocking life. You are just happy to get through the day. But the good news is we have a choice today to start over. And that's what we're going to do on this season of Women of Excellence with Janee. Being a woman is tough. Women of Excellence with Janee Hill encourages, equips, and empowers women with real solutions to real issues. From business to family, to health and relationships, work-life balance. If women face it, we address it with heart, humor, and a hands-on approach. Women of Excellence, where laughter meets tough love as we do life together. If you are just tuning in, welcome. I am so excited to have you join our little tribe of women helping women. A little bit about me and my heart behind this podcast. I have found that life is tough. We face all kinds of things, I think, particularly as women, that can be difficult. Whether it's raising kids or even if you're single, how do you navigate dating, time management, conflict resolution? Not that any of us ever have that. Dealing with perfectionism, just some of those things that we women struggle with. And what you're going to find here is I want to be real. I want this to be a place where we have community. This is not just a one-way podcast, video conversation. I want to hear from you. It gives me such great joy when I see people commenting and sharing and engaging in this content, not because I need the followers or likes or shares, although that does help, by the way, but rather because I want to see us as women really spurring one another on. As I mentioned, I feel like we all have been through a season of just surviving. We have had so many things thrown at us in the last year or two that it has just been hard to navigate the future when you're just trying to survive the day. But guess what? I don't believe that's what life is about. Ladies, I want to see us having a rockin' life, doing more things that we love, things that fill our hearts, things that literally we jump out of bed because we are excited about the day. Now, I know that there are some of you out there who may be like me. It's been a long time since you have felt that excitement, that passion, even joy for life, zest for life. And you may feel like you've missed your window of opportunity. That is absolutely not true. This is your time. I don't care how many times you've tried and failed in the past to pick yourself up. This is your season to do more of what you love with the people you enjoy. Woo-hoo! Who's ready? Now, that's where we're going this season. But today, I want to talk about one of the biggest things that we all, men, women, boys, and girls, struggle with. It is something that has been known to lead people to suicide more recently in the past few years. It is something that really can keep you from being your absolute best. Does anyone have any guesses as to what this thing is? Comparison. Comparison. Think about a time when you were having a great day. I mean, you had your hair done, you were feeling good about yourself, you were checking things off your checklist, you were just rocking your jam. And all of a sudden, you get on social media or you pass someone on the road, someone you know, and it appears as if someone else has something more than or better than you. And suddenly, all of those feelings of confidence, it's like a balloon. They are just deflated. Comparison. It's something that gets all of us. And today, I'm going to give us 3 practical strategies for overcoming comparison. I will tell you that these 3 practical strategies, they work, but for me, I have to do them often. And before we dig into those 3 strategies, I want to share a real-time story. I have a 7-year-old son who just started first grade. I was so proud of the backpack that we picked out. Yes, I know it's just a backpack, but if you have kids starting school, you know that a backpack is an important decision. So we had searched backpacks. We had looked at character backpacks. We had looked at the name brand backpacks, and we picked out a totally different route of backpack. This backpack is an orange backpack. Orange because in the town that we live in, orange and black are our team colors. This orange backpack has all of these secret compartments that my son thought were just so cool. They have water bottle containers. They have book binder containers. I mean, it is a super cool backpack. And then we thought we would crank up this backpack even more by adding embroidered initials and his football number. This backpack came back from the monogram shop, and he is sporting it around the house, all proud of himself. And we're just really having like a little, parent for the win celebration because we found something that he liked, but it was also really efficient until we go to the first day of school. And as we are standing outside the school, because we got there early, they weren't letting people in yet, we had the opportunity to look around at everyone's backpacks. Womp, womp. And suddenly, our backpack did not seem so great. Now, the backpack hadn't changed. Everything that we loved about the backpack had not changed. But what changed was us taking our eyes off of the prize and looking at everyone else's prizes, quote unquote, in this case being a backpack. Now I realize some of you out there may not care a thing about backpacks, but if you have just come off of a great vacation, you shared your pictures, you thought it was wonderful. And then all of a sudden you see a friend and she's kind of one-upped you on vacation. How does that make you feel? Sometimes it can steal the joy of the blessings that we have by comparing ourselves to the blessings that others have. So the first key I would say It's a phrase that you've probably heard 8 million times, but to maintain an attitude of gratitude. I'll go back to the backpack story. With that backpack story, I was like, you know what? I'm thankful that he has a bajillion different pockets. I'm thankful that he has the only orange backpack in his class. It'll be easy to spot. I'm thankful that we were bold enough to go a different route. So much of what we are facing in our world right now, you see people divided. You see, and I'm not just talking political parties, I'm talking about, let's take another divisive topic, vaccine or no vaccine. You see people just butting heads over almost everything. And what I would like to suggest is that some of that might come from not having that attitude of gratitude. Let's say you're a person who takes the vaccine and you feel like that has worked for you. Be thankful for that. And if you are a person who has not had the vaccine and you don't have to have the vaccine, be thankful for that. But instead of having an attitude of gratitude for what we do have, we tend to judge others for what they do or do not have. And so the first thing I would like to suggest, and I am no therapist, by the way, I'm just a gal who's trying to do life just like you. But if you're struggling with comparison, have an attitude of gratitude. The second thing I would like to suggest, know what triggers you. And that word triggers, it kind of means what are those things that provoke you or the things that maybe steal your joy. For example, one of mine is social media. Not all of the time, but there are times, especially in this last year, as we were navigating change in our city, change in careers, change in family living situation for a season, for a time. As we were navigating those things, there were some insecurities that I had. Am I making the right choice? Is this the best decision for our family? And during that time, if I got on social media and I saw my friends or, my Facebook friends who I don't really know, having these wonderful experiences and talking about how great life is, that just clouded my headspace. I don't know if you ever saw Charlie Brown, but in Charlie Brown, there was this character called Pigpen, and he went with a little cloud behind him. Wherever he went, it was always a little mess. And for me, sometimes comparison can be like a pig pen. When we are comparing our situations, our circumstances, our lives to other people's lives, then it is hard to decipher, to determine what is best for us. And so we're always walking around with a little cloud behind us. We're like a pig pen. And that leads me to the second point. There may be times that you need to identify those things, those comparison areas that are just not healthy for you. One of mine for a time was social media. And so what did I do? I just took a break from it. And because you take a break now doesn't mean you're going to take a break forever. I mentioned that we moved to a very small town from a very big city, Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas is known for beautiful ladies, and there are certain communities that you go into and it's all the wealthy people, all the nice cars, a lot of moms that don't have to work. And literally, I would find myself sometimes driving through those neighborhoods. I could have been having a great day, and all of a sudden, I would feel the air being sucked out of my life balloon as I began to get jealous and envious of these ladies. And so, what I started to do is just avoid those areas, not forever, but for that time in my life. I think about horses. If you've ever ridden a horse, they really keep their heads down when you're riding a horse, and they are just looking at the trail in front of them. What would happen if we simply looked at the trail in front of us? So we talked about 2 of the 3 key strategies. The first one being attitude of gratitude. The second one being identifying those people, places, things that trigger thoughts of comparison and avoid them. Again, not forever, but for now. And the third thing I would suggest, and it's probably one of the most difficult things when you're thinking about comparison, but tell on yourself. Tell on yourself so that you can open the door to get to the root of the issue. See, guys, comparison is not the problem. It is the thoughts and feelings and actions that comparison can bring up. And those thoughts and feelings and actions come from a place of a piece of our heart that's broken. I know that you may be like, who is this lady? This is way too deep. Where is the fun? I know, looking at yourself and your own stuff, that's hard. But when we do it, we can get to that thriving mode versus just surviving mode. So hang in there with me. Let me give you a real example of how I told on myself with comparison. I have a friend, she got married later in life. She married a wonderful guy who has just been able to give her the world. He's very established in his career. So like she really can get anything she wants. She doesn't work. She's got a beautiful daughter. And there was a time that I had to unfollow her on social media because when I did, I just found myself getting jealous. And I actually went to this friend and I just told on myself. I said, hey, I want to let you know that like I quit following you on social media because I was a little jealous and I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? And she was like, oh, Janee, absolutely, I will forgive you. But let me tell you some of the struggles that I don't put on social media. And as she began to reveal some of these struggles, they were major things. And so in that moment of me confessing my comparison to her and how it made me feel and how it put a wedge between us that she had no clue, it allowed for a beautiful thing in our friendship. And that was authenticity and vulnerability. And I don't think we would have received the gift of authenticity in our friendship if I hadn't been willing to share what was really going on in my head and my heart based on her social media post. Now, I get it. Some of you may be judging me. Janee, that is the dumbest thing ever. And I don't ever get that way. Well, I will tell you, those of you who never get that way are probably the ones that need to listen to these podcasts over and over because we all have struggles. And we all, men, women, boys, and girls, all ages, all sexes, all genders, everything, we all struggle with comparison, but it doesn't have to steal our joy. But it does require us having an attitude of gratitude. It also requires us being willing to identify those areas of comparison that really steal our joy and be willing to avoid them for just a period of time until you kind of address the heart issue. And the third thing, we can't address the heart issue until we confess that we have an issue. And I would always suggest doing that with a safe, trusted person. And if you don't have one of those friends in your life, go see a counselor or a therapist. Highly recommend that because you don't have to stay in that place. Now, I realize this is a lot for this first episode on this season where we're supposed to talk about rocking and jamming. But I have found that comparison can be a thing. It may seem like a little thing, but it can have a big impact on us living our best lives. John 10:10, that's a verse, says, the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And I have found that for me, comparison can steal my joy. It can kill my dreams because then I think I'm not good enough. And it can destroy my confidence. And that is exactly what the enemy, the devil, would want. But guess what? That verse, that scripture does not stop there. There's a second part of that verse, and it says, but I, and it's referring to the Lord, I have come to give you life and give it abundantly. Years ago, I rededicated my life to Christ. See, I'd been raised in a Christian home, a Southern Baptist home, lots of rules, lots of religion, not a lot of relationship with Christ. But I knew of Christ, but he was like a big being, not really a dude that you could pray with and do life with. And then in 2007, I had just a significant event happen to me. And that was the first time in my whole life that I realized that God is real. He's got a plan for me and he wants a relationship with me. And guess what? He wants that with you too. I realize if you're just tuning in, you weren't really expecting maybe to get a Jesus jolt at the end of this particular podcast. I want to be clear. I am not a Bible teacher. I am just a girl who has been changed by the healing power of Christ. And I have found that through that relationship with Christ, as I dig into God's word, it really is true. And so just this week, John 10:10, what would it look like for you to have an abundant life? Not just survive, but thrive. And I'm not talking about finances. I think we hear the word abundance and we think finances, material things. I'm talking about what would it look like to have a life full of peace and calm when there is nothing but chaos, full of happiness when we live in a sad, broken world. You can have that. But I would like to suggest that when we have comparison, we will always, always not be our best. And so a little assignment for you. What would an abundant life look like for you? And how is comparison getting in your way? I would love to hear your comments, your thoughts at Real Janee Hill on social media. And if you've gotten anything out of this podcast, it would mean a lot if you would share it. Life is better when we do it together. And so I will see you next week as we put a little jam into our fall foods and fun. You're not going to want to miss it. If you like what you're hearing, please share this with a friend and follow me at Real Janee Hill on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.